All right. Chair, Harry Meyer.
Here.
Vice Chair, Gary Delvaux.
Here.
Jim Boomrick. Here. Alderman Joe Moore.
Yes, sir.
Melanie Parma, has to be excused. Matt Schuler.
Here.
And Tom Weber.
Here.
All right, ask for a vote on the approval of the agenda sent out.
So moved.
Tom?
Second.
All right, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
Harry, can we go back?
Yep.
The approval of the agenda, I want to make a motion, move number 2 to number 1.
Okay, there was a motion by Tom then to move number 2 up to number 1.
Second.
Second by Matt, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Approval of the minutes is sent out to everybody.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Communications done, old business done. Number 2, consideration with possible action on the request to approve the Legends District Master Plan.
All right.
Somebody going to give us a report?
Yes, we are. So Legends District, it's also been known as Uptown Stadium Entertainment District. It's a planning process basically encompassing the area south of Lombardi, west of Ashland, all the way almost to our border with Ashwaubenon. It's a planning process that our staff and the community and business owners have been involved in over the last several months. We've also been working, we hired, RDA made approval to hire Verbecker out of Madison as our consultant to work with us in this process. We've had a great process working through, and what we have before you is a draft plan to present for your approval. So if Stephanie, you want to talk a little bit, just Stephanie Hummel is a planner in our department, if you don't know already, and she's been the project lead on this, and I'll turn it over to her.
Okay, Stephanie, you're up.
Thank you. So as we said, we already got approval from you all in April of last year to do this project. So now we're coming to you with our final draft. A couple things that we wanted to go through just before we started the actual presentation. Thank you, Kristen. This was led primarily by our steering committee. So this is made up of business owners, property owners, and some people in the neighborhoods that encompass this area. This plan was unique because usually we're looking for people who live in the district to go through these master planning projects, and this doesn't have anyone who lives there. So this is primarily composed of, again, business property owners, and then we also have a representative from the Plan Commission and from a neighborhood association. So throughout the process, we did have 6 meetings with that group itself, in which we went through all the details of what we were looking for, what they were looking for, how they were feeling about the general community itself. We also held 3 public workshops with this. So each one of those was very interactive. We had our consulting team do a presentation on what we hope to gain out of those meetings. And then we went through, we had surveys done, we did public participation with them at these meetings in which they said that these are priorities for us, these are not priorities for us. And throughout that whole thing, we got a lot of really positive and really cooperative feedback from the public itself. So with that, looking at this plan, it looks like a lot of the master plans we have done before, except for this one was really focused on the public and then our steering committee making the decisions for us. So the things that they had the most input on would be the connection points that we were looking at, some of the redevelopment sites that we're hoping to achieve. The district name was picked by our steering committee. Our design preferences and theme were both picked through the steering committee and then also through our public process. So as you have reviewed this document, I know we sent it out in email. I hope you had time over the weekend to review it. Just know that this was all directed completely by the public and then also the steering committee, and staff was just there to facilitate, and then our consulting team to put the draft together. So with that, I would like to introduce Quayson Shaw. He's from Beerbecker Associates, and he's going to be doing the rest of the presentation for us.
Hi. We're doing. Good to see you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen.
Good afternoon.
Nice to see you all again.
Yes, very good.
Different capacity this time. Again, my name is Quayson Shaw. I'm with Beerbecker. We're out of Madison. I'm here in the Green Bay office. So we were the consultants chosen to work with the Redevelopment Authority on this project here. Like Stephanie said, the name that we chose was the Legends District. Just to give you a little background about the area. You know, the area of focus here is roughly about 90 acres for development that we're looking at, bounded between Brett Favre Pass on the far west side, the city, basically the city boundary to the south, and then we have roughly Ashland and then Lombardi Avenue. It kind of jogs around up to Norwood and so forth. So this was the area that we looked at. We did all of our development there. We did all of our development studies, proposals and things of that nature. And so what we looked at when we first sat down with our steering committee, and then we asked them, what are the opportunities and challenges that this area faces. And we also, when we did our public workshop, we did a station for the public to come in, and we did like the little sticky dot exercise. The red dots meant that, hey, this was a challenge, and then the green dots meant that this was an opportunity. When we looked at this, the overwhelming thing was that people said that, hey, we need to look at like connectivity issues over here in this district. Connectivity, how do we get the residents from the neighborhood to the north of there? Doesn't show up on it. Roughly to the north where Lombardi is, how do we get residents from over there into the district, and how do we funnel individuals between the entertainment side of things, which is Lambeau Field, the rest center, things of that nature? How do we get them into the district? How do we move them within the district? And how do we ultimately get them to spend more money in the district, which is what the business owners and individuals will like as well too. So we looked at some of the opportunities. The opportunities at Tundra Lodge, I thought that was a great opportunity in the district. Presents great development catalyst, as well as some of the development sites that was actually chosen that saw as challenges also were labeled as opportunities. Well, right now, when we look at particularly like the Hudson Sharp building, that building right now is zoned industrial, but it's an excellent opportunity for redevelopment. So in essence, it was a challenge, but it's also an opportunity as well too in the district. So then we looked at connections. How do we move people through and from the district? The site A there, that's roughly the Holmgren Way sites where Brett Favre Pass is. How do we connect people that way into this more towards like the rest center, things of that nature? D was along Reggie White Way. C was another development right along the city border with the Schwabenon. And then B up to the north was the Marquette neighborhood as well. How do we get individuals from there to funnel over across? We looked at that there's, when you look at Lombardi Avenue, there's no direct connections across the street when you look at like 12th Street, 13th, 14th Street, places like that over there. How do you connect directly across the street, right where the Quick Trip is, Reggie White Way, things of that nature. So those are some of the areas that we want to hone in on, and how do we better make those better connections for individuals in the neighborhoods that work there, that live over there as well too. So what we looked at doing was creating like wayfinding situations. Where you see like the large asterisks, those are where we looked at for like major gateways to funnel people throughout the district or funnel them into the district. It could be like large gateway signs, like a district, now you're entering the Legends District. It could be a large archway across the street. We also have like the smaller asterisks where we have one on Reggie White Way, Bar Star Drive as well too, into the southern border where Schwabenon is, because that's a heavily traveled path as well too when you come down McCarthy Way. How do we get individuals to come into the district there? So if we start to have like wayfinding signage there, whether it's smaller like pillars or kiosks or anything of that nature, then we start looking at where the eyes are. Those are more informational kiosks as well too. We looked at also, how do we increase like the traffic in the area as well too, with like the transit stops, increases the transit stops as well too, bicycle and pedestrian paths along the way as well. How do we better connect this, not only throughout the district, but how do we connect it into the neighborhoods and into the downtown with bike paths and pedestrian paths and things of that nature as well. So then we sat down with the steering committee. We asked them to identify what are some key redevelopment sites in the area. What do you think? Give us 3 sites that are catalyst sites that would help spur economic development or help spur real estate development in the area. And then we followed that up at our public workshop as well too, and we asked the public to give us their input. And overwhelmingly, these 3 sites were chosen. Site number 1 that you see is the Hudson Sharp property. Site 2 is the Stadium View parking lot, which is located in the city of Green Bay. Site number 3 is a site along Bar Star Drive, Tony Canadeo Run, and Reggie White Way, right down there to the south. So we looked at, with site 1, how do we look at what are some of the redevelopment opportunities that we could look at with this site? We looked at we wanted to go really deep or really high in density with this area. So if you look at like pictures A on there, those are proposed for like 7-story buildings. We want to go like really high with density over there. 7 stories max. We looked at 5 to 7 stories in terms of like high density, medium density, things of that nature. But we figured along there, we could look at like larger densities as well too. Site D that you're looking at, that's the current Badger State Brewing company that's going on there. We figured that would be a great catalyst to remain there and spur additional economic development, with the rest of them being infill development sites as well. And also, if you notice too, we really wanted to get, particular with the urban design in the area, we wanted the buildings to be up on the street wanted them to really frame the street and provide that. We didn't want a lot of setbacks with large parking lots, things of that nature. The steering committee and the public both agreed that they wanted like the parking to be hidden. They wanted the buildings up front with architectural quality, things of that nature as well. We look at site 2 here, which is the Stadium View parking lot as well too. This has the opportunity to be a 2-story building for site A. B, this could be up to a 3 to 5-story building as well too. Maybe, additional, it could be depending on the land use that an individual wants to come in. These are some of the options that we looked at as well too. Site 3, the property where Tony Kennedale run to the north. Then you have the city limits to the south, and then you also have Barshard Drive there to the east. So we want to look at going in here with like a high density development as well too. A mixed use type facility that could go in. The problem, not the problem. One of the issues with this site, and forgive me for walking.
That's okay. It's fine.
So with this site here, one of the things that the steering committee and the public really wanted to, right now, this is currently not a street. This is Reggie White Way right here. So they really wanted to increase, or not increase, but they really wanted to provide a way for this street to continue down into Schwabenland and connect with Mike McCarthy Way. We felt that with allowing this street to come through, it would therefore open up the entire district, give us that connectivity into Schwabenland, have more of the residents into Schwabenland come in for whatever businesses, entertainment goods, and services that could be located here. So this gives us another entry point into the district to allow things to circulate in the district as well too. So currently, while this is not a street currently, we thought that this was in the best interest to come in. Then it also gives us additional development sites as well too to open up as well. Then we looked at the zoning for the district as well too. If you see like the dark pink, that is our mixed use development. Our mixed use zoning, we figured that would be an opportunity to do, where there's retail on the bottom, residential above, or office on the bottom, retail on the bottom, and office space above, or any combination of those three as well too. The peach color, I guess, that's you could look at that. That's where we figured that was our main commercial corridors, where you currently have like the Pizza Hut, Leatherhead Breweries, Dickey's Barbecue Pit, former Dickey's Barbecue Pit. And then you also have the Quick Trip and the Tundra Lodge, and then you have the Hilton Garden Inn over to your far left as well. And then where the blue is, we figured we settled on, the steering committee settled on that could be like our civic or open space. Currently, right now, that is where one of the retention ponds is located. But we also have where you see like this, the asterisk or the circular, where it looks like it's like on your phone when you're still like looking for service. that symbol there. Those are one of the areas that we thought would be great for a public plaza, an outdoor public plaza. So we looked at having a smaller one as part of this development opportunity here on Lombardi Avenue, a large one here, and we could redesign it where the retention pond is, make it a nice public feature, engaging the retention pond, and then also here along Brett Favre Steakhouse to allow for connectivity on that aspect as well too. And then again, the urban format. Here's where we just look at the different density levels. Right along Lombardi Avenue, we call for high density in that thick, dark peach color. And then that's roughly about like 5 to 7 stories where we looked at. The next color, almost a salmon color. Really learned my colors here today. We looked at about 3 to 5 stories, and then in the smaller beige color, we looked at that could be no less than 2 stories. We didn't want any building in there that was 1 story. So whether we really, the steering committee was adamant that what they wanted 2-story buildings in there, all new buildings to be 2 stories, just to kind of help frame the street as well too. So the architectural style that we kind of that we settled on, that the steering committee settled on, then we took it to the public workshop. And the public workshop, the individuals overwhelmingly like the idea as well too. We termed it as industrial chic. It's basically like an aesthetic trend in interior design that takes clues from old factories, industrial spaces, the building style of use, existing buildings to convert it to loft and other living spaces. Basically a lot of like exposed bricks, steel, things of that nature. So if you see in like, here are some of our design recommendations that are in the plan as well too. You see like the old factory buildings in the bottom, like with the exposed with the brick and then the glass and things of that nature. You see in the center picture with the gateway example, that's another example of what the arches could be along Lombardi and Ashland, or along Holmgren Way into Brett Favre Pass into that area as well too. Gooseneck lighting, different lighting techniques and lighting behind the buildings and the awnings and things of that nature, even down to the trash receptacles. So those are all some stuff that the steering committee took a look at. The public voted on as well too. We had we took use of clickers. We had design preference surveys. We showed them different design pictures, different pictures of architectural styles, apartments, high density apartments. We looked at lofts. We looked at street furniture, and we had everybody rank them. So those are the ones that came up from there with the highest totals. And then we started looking at streetscape options here. So you look at like A and B. These are your streetscapes that could go down like Reggie White Way, Bar Star Drive, things of that nature. C and D, those are more for the Tony Canadeo run, potentially Lombardi Avenue long term. We start to look at, we have like a median going down the middle, and we have like a place for pedestrians to stop or even cross. That's one of the things we really need to highlight, because there's so much traffic that goes down Tony Canadeo run. We really wanted to look at it in such a wide street. So how do we make that more pedestrian friendly? And how do we allow people to travel from both sides of the street? How do they cross the street? Because currently there are no crossings on Tony Canadeo run. It's just a wide open street. So we really want to look at mid-block crossings, things of that nature, and how do we look at a median going down the center to allow people to come across the center to cross the streets. But also within there, we wanted to make it decorative too, where we have like tree planters, we have lights and things of that nature. You also look at banners and options of that nature for that. And then we have a 53-point implementation plan that we made our recommendations ranging from economic development down to planning as well, down to programming of the district as well too. I know those are in your booklets. It's a little hard to read on the slide, but if you guys have any questions, I don't know if Stephanie or Kevin, if there's anything that you guys want to add on.
I think just to reiterate Quayson and Stephanie's point, I think just through this planning process, we didn't know how it was going to start, given, this wasn't a residential area and what the turnout might be. But I think we had pretty good active participation from the businesses there. And at the end of the day, it's our job to just kind of capture their wants, desires, provide, with our consultant and our expertise,
Right.
Ideas and advice. But at the end of the day, this is the citizen-shaped plan, and everything, being approved by the steering committee and a public vote. So, at the end of the day, this is what we believe to be a truly public plan. And, thank our consultant and thank Stephanie a lot, really making sure that this project got done.
When you look at the thanks, Mr. Shaw. When you look at the streetscapes that were up there, and it shows like the on-street parking on the sides, it kind of eliminates opportunity for like bike lanes and stuff. Was there a lot of thought about that? Because it seems that the desire of the city or the city leadership seems to be shifting toward more bike and pedestrian friendliness than maybe we've been in the last 700 years.
Absolutely, that was one of the. It does accommodate for bike lanes. There are a couple of them out there where it is a designated bike lane,
okay,
and the others could be deemed as share lanes as well too. But that was overwhelmingly that the steering committee and the public definitely wanted bike lanes in there.
Great.
If you were to execute this plan right to a T, what would be some of the biggest city commitments? I've seen some streets going through and whatever. If you were to recap the city commitments, what would it be? High level.
High level, the streetscape is always, when you start looking at real estate development or economic development, when you put in like a new streetscape, you beautify the area, that's kind of the signal to the development community that you're serious, So I think with the city taking that first step, coming in, doing any sort of like streetscape improvements, that's huge. And also, I know Kevin's office, does a lot with economic development. So that's an opportunity to do like a business retention and recruitment program for that area as well too. Work with the existing organizations over there to help spur economic development.
Was there any interaction with the village of Ashwaubenon? Because they bought a number of buildings on that adjoining property, and I don't quite know what their plans might be for that area.
We did meet with Ashwaubenon, and we did keep them abreast of what we were doing. I think it's important, since we do share that southern boundary,
right,
to communicate with them. We also plan accordingly. That's where the idea for when we talked to them about, we like to, when the steering committee said, put the road through, and we went to Schwaben, and they said, hey, that's a good idea, because we're kind of similar parcels over here, and we like that connectivity as well, too. I know that they were working on a separate plan as well to install the Packers, but we wanted to kind of communicate to make sure that, we all have a comprehensive plan and a plan that's in collaboration with each other as well, too. So we did keep Schwaben in communication.
How many acres are vacant in that area?
Honestly, I would say roughly about 15. You just have the one right where Tony Canadeo Run is,
Yeah.
and across the street where the retention pond is, that are currently vacant with nothing on them. The rest is all, I know Stadium View uses their parking lot quite a bit. So right now, I think those are the only two parcels that are vacant in the area.
Kevin, of the 90 acres, does the city or RDA own any of that?
City owns no property over there, I believe. Even the stormwater pond is privately managed, but the city owns nothing
Okay.
over there.
Okay.
You mentioned Hudson Sharp several times.
Mm-hmm.
Is there an anticipation they may relocate, or are you just going to work around them?
Tear them down.
I did not say that. I think there is anticipation that eventually at some point, it is an industrial a usage that, could potentially be relocated to another area of the city, particularly I-43 Business Park, University Heights Business Park, or somewhere of that nature. But we've been in contact with the property owner there. Andrew was on our steering committee. They're in support of doing some redevelopment there to that level. I'm not sure of, but they are aware of the plans and they are in support of them.
Good.
But we did not recommend tearing.
Oh, I know that.
Joe, throw that.
Right.
Sensors, cameras.
Any other questions?
What's your timeline?
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry.
Your timeline,
For implementation,
implementation, and first developments?
I think that's maybe a question that Kevin.
There you go, Kevin.
All the marketing now.
No, well, I think some of the initial priority things, focusing on streetscape improvements and pedestrian circulation is a big thing down here. And making this a safer, more convenient, more inviting place to walk and get around. To go places before events and after events, and just circulate through there. And I think those are some of the things that we've got, at least on our public works radar, about doing some of those improvements. With that, for us, it's always a game of timing and working with projects. And look, I think this just solidifies, we're committed to this area. We have an interest in this area. We've had some changes in this area. What are the next changes going to be? And gives investors, developers some confidence of, all right, if I invest in this area, this is what I can expect. And before that, I don't know. I mean, we had some zoning, but we didn't really have that. And I think this really solidifies it and says, yep, this is what we're going to be doing here. This is how we're going to move forward. And will help us in terms of recruiting and drawing out some more of those prospects.
And I suppose I'm interested in the RDA's opinion on, we define this as a district, it becomes something. And it's always been Progress and
Right.
Lombardi, but branding is a big part of it. And that's when people feel part of it, they feel like investing, or they feel like, well, this isn't for me. And I know those guys at Such and Sharp, and I think that they're going to say, look, we're more in I-43 business park. That's where we belong. That's, how we make our money. So I thought that was important that we came up with a name. I don't know that I'm crazy about it yet, but I do think we need to identify the district. The other thing I think was paramount, Harry, was the connectivity with Ashwaubenon and the Packers, and they are both on board with us doing something. I think that's absolutely critical, that this connects this arena, that this connects. We put that grid system through. Those are expensive, but Steve did it with Bart Star Drive. He can do it again with Reggie White Way. And then you got a grid system, some corners, and some investments that $2-3 million somebody to get in the game. So I think it's affordable for someone to get in here and to identify it and make sure that we're working with, the other, I'll say the other three governments, but Ashwaubenon and the Packers and us.
Yep.
And it seems like that's the way it's going. So,
I can also point out too that Ashwaubenon and the Packers both have representatives at the public workshops as well too.
Oh, good.
How did the Legends name come about in the first place?
Well, we gave a series of names to the steering committee. and then they didn't like some of those. So then we just kind of went around with some different wordplays and, kind of talked it between the staff and the steering committee and settled on Legends District.
There's a number of legends statues, aren't there?
Right.
Yeah, the Walk of Legends statues.
Yeah.
And probably most important is our title company, which is theirs, named Legends.
Okay.
Did not know that.
I did not know either.
That's what I'm saying.
You have on here a draft. Is there some additional work to be done on this?
It only says draft because it hasn't been approved yet.
Okay.
So once the city council approves it.
So this is sort of the final then?
Unless you
Yeah.
have something else for us.
Yeah.
So process, based on your recommendations here, any changes or additions, things that you want to do with that, I believe, then to forward this on, approve with the forwarding on to Plan Commission, which will meet on the 23rd. And then the report of that Plan Commission will go to City Council, the first meeting in February, for the final approval by Council.
Are there any zoning issues in here?
No, so it talks about in the implementation about, just looking at overlay districts and other additional types of zoning for this area. Right now it's like you've seen, it's a hodgepodge of things, but just kind of define where we're going to be going with that. So this does not change the zoning, but provide some recommendations for future tools.
Do you have a rough idea how many people from out in that area participated in your study?
The online survey, we had over 200 individuals.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, the first public meeting, I have the numbers. I think it may be in the appendix of the individuals who attended all the meetings. So we have a list of all the folks that attended the meetings.
So it's pretty good participation. Yeah.
We actually had one table that was at all of the public hearings. I don't know if they just made an evening out to come to all the public workshops, but yeah, we had one table that was there for every meeting.
Oh, wow.
Because I think it's imperative that we have the support from that area to put this thing across.
The only concern I ever have with these types of development, the scope and nature here is when we talk about the gateways, and we put a lot of the fluff out there, and then over time we start to pull those things back and back and back, and then we end up with ho hum. And I don't know if there's any way you can guard against that, but these are nice and good plans, and I think they're befitting the city and the area. And but I'd like to see those, whether they're architecture, the lighting, and those things, and not have those things pulled back to the extent that we do at
Sure.
times.
Kind of related to that, if it gets approved by the City Council, is your group, Kevin, that's going to make this happen?
Yeah, I think it's a combination. Our development team.
Okay.
And that is,
okay.
it's planning, it's public works,
All right.
it's finance. It's all of us
Okay.
together figuring out, all right, as a plan, how we're going to implement this.
I don't want to lose my point. That's important that the Packers and the Schwaben support.
Oh, yeah, right.
It's just, I don't know how much money they're going to put into it, if any, if they're going to participate in connective lighting, but, and you guys ran the KI Convention Center, but the Oneidas and the Packers need to support that because if they compete with us, they can win because they've got some benefits we don't have.
Yep.
Right,
So,
right.
I like what Quayson did. I like the fact that the Packers and the Schwaben were represented there. And I would just like, I don't know that I need a resolution, but I want them to support this because it's going to happen better and quicker and a lot easier if all three of us are pulling with this name, with this
Right.
concept.
Oh, yeah.
To that
Can't
point,
do it alone, Jim.
To that point, Your Honor, I would stick with. I think sticking with the Legends District actually helps market that area a little better. I know downtown, midtown, uptown is a vision that we kind of started out with this. But if I'm a business owner, I move into the area and I can put a additional emblem on my letterhead that says Legends District, by my address, as opposed to uptown. I just think that maybe sells a little bit more and helps us compete a little bit more with Titletown District. So, and then as far as gaining support from the United Nation and from the Packers, Legends I think is a lot more attractive to them as well. My thoughts.
There's a historic
All those
concept
monuments
in it.
down there.
Right, right.
Well, I think so too, Kevin. Two things that what the United Nations already has done with those, statues along Lombardi Avenue, and the street names are all those, Star and Reggie White. They're all legends to
Right.
Green Bay. So, I kind of thought I kind of liked it when he came out with that.
Okay.
Well, not me. That's the committee.
Yeah.
So
I'll make a motion to approve the Legend District Master Plan.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Gary, second by Tom then to approve the draft copy of the Legends District as outlined. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
And just,
Thank you. Yes.
Just to re-clarify, this will then go now to Plan Commission on the 23rd and be at council at our first meeting
Right.
in February.
Excellent. Great job, guys.
Thanks, Stephanie.
It's January 23rd for that.
Monday, January 23rd for Plan Commission. And then the first meeting in February, which is the
What time is that meeting?
6 p.m.
6?
Yep. It's our council meeting.
Would you send me a note on that?
Sure.
I might want to like to attend that.
Okay.
All right, back to regular business then. We'll go to number 1, consideration of possible action to approve a term sheet with TMD Properties LLC for redevelopment of the JBS Practical and Packing Site at 2850 University Avenue. You want to give a little background first, Kevin?
I do. I just want to write my note down so I don't forget to send you a note.
Good for you.
Okay.
That's pretty cool.
I don't write it down.
I know what you mean.
You're the only one.
I know. All right. So what we want to talk about today is continued development in the University Avenue corridor. Again, we've been talking about this for a few years now. The redevelopment plan.
I'm sorry.
Which we had the creation of the TID district out there. Our first catalyst project, the Festival Foods. With the Quick Trip now going to be coming online and the outlying shops. This is what it's all about, and it's driving additional development in that area. So with that, we have a proposal here from TMD Properties, and they're here. If you'd like to ask them some questions, they can talk a little bit more about the product and the whole project. They would like to redevelop the Packer Lane packing site. So this is just to the east of Festival. It's a site as University splits. Just to the right, just to the south, 30 plus acres, kind of up on a slope bordering Baird's Creek. And what they'd like to do is take down the old site, which is about 5 structures, reconfigure it, and replace it with a residential development. I wanted to send around, the applicant did bring, so you pass those through. Yeah. Brought some drawings that talk about the specifics of the project itself. And what it is, it's a big development, but we're also talking about 30 acres. And so it's a phased project to bring in 364 units of multifamily housing. With that, and the developer can attest to this a little bit more, one of the things they want to do, even though it's all rental, we're looking at different types of products, different price points, and different categories towards markets that we're seeking. In terms of the growth, I've talked about this before. The rental market in the city is strong. Our housing studies have said we have a continued demand for rental housing. It's not me, it's you. It's just demographics, and that's where things are trending for those types of real estate products. And so there's a demand for those in the community. In terms of overall, for the project, just looking at our community economic development strategy, things that it does, it takes down this blighted eyesore on the east side. Been vacant for quite some time now. But taking that down and putting it into a more meaningful, more purposeful use. It's taking down some environmental hazards. There's asbestos in the building to be determined. There's possibly some additional other environmental cleanup on the site. We're going to be adding some additional public infrastructure. One of the things, the benefits that we have, the connection to Baird's Creek and being able to provide some additional access to that parkway, and adding in terms of the residential products that we have to offer in the community. In terms of public involvement in the project, the developer is requesting some TIP assistance for this project based on 2 things. On the front end, they are looking for $1 million in a project grant to help basically with site prep. And that is to do the environmental remediation in the building, take down the building, demo the building, and get it prepared for future development. They are also requesting a PAYGO reimbursement on the back end to help with, again, some of the additional expenses of redeveloping this site. Primarily also one of those being something that the city has pushed for and that is, a higher end design. We talked about urban chic and that last one. Here we have a unique site and a good opportunity that has some good visibility, and we want to make sure that the product that we're putting out here, really reflects good design choices, and it's going to be something that it's very prominent and very visible, and we want to make sure that we're doing the best that we can. If we're going to redevelop this, and this is going to be sticking around for the next 50, 60 years, that we're putting a lot of great effort into that. So with that, some of those designs are within the packet that was handed out. With that, the developer is here to ask specific questions. I included the term sheet in the pack with you. So with that, I can answer any questions up front, and again, developer's here to answer more specifics.
Kevin, this property, as we all know, has been vacant for quite some time. Have any other developers approached us on doing something out in that area?
No.
No?
No. We've, as we've gone through and we've marketed the sites along University Avenue, the catalyst sites that are identified. The Triangle, Packard Lane Packing, and the Tillman site. Those are the three catalyst sites out there. So when projects are coming through and looking for ideas, we take them to those sites. This has been the only project where something more serious has been put forward in terms of an actual proposal.
But we have taken people out to the site, up on the 30 acres, and walked around, people who do what we're looking to be done, increase tax base, have quality residential living, to connect with the University, Wisconsin, as well as the university that takes us downtown. And this is what we found. We just, for other reasons, either more downtown or it's not in their wheelhouse, but we have walked a number of people through that property.
Yes.
Go on record as saying that.
At one time, we had applied for a federal grant to help demolish and clean up this.
Idle
We
sites
didn't
grant.
get it. We didn't get it. I take it.
We did not get it. One of those things, the Idle Sites Grant, one of the criteria they have in that is job creation. Now there's some construction job creation. This is a residential project. Generally, those go towards more like office or business type uses.
Way back when this was originally kind of the start of it, this area was such a mixed use of residential. Single-family housing, condos, and then into the rentals. Is there a reason why all of a sudden it just blossoms as total rental?
Sure. I'll let the developer speak to that a little bit more because they're the ones who've done the market studies. From just a land use perspective, you already have a lot of rental units around here. So I think what that does is it makes it much more difficult to put in an ownership type of product within, just given the market surrounding it. Not to say it's impossible, but it's more difficult to do that. And I think we've had some discussions about the mix of housing types, the rental versus ownership, and for other reasons, I think also talking about just some of the demographics and where the market's at in the city. And for at some of these costs, the ownership component hasn't been feasible, at least in terms of making the numbers work for this site. Again, I'll let the developer go through because they're the ones who have done some of the market studies and provided kind of their rents and price points of where things are at. It's not to say it's not impossible, but it's a higher burden and it's more difficult to get done.
And the other thing I think you should add is that there are residential ownerships being proposed just a little further east.
Correct. And for that, again, you hammered on us about, the ownership component.
Right.
And that is something that I just want to make sure, again, going on the record, that we reflect in that. This hasn't been the site for that type of product.
Okay.
But nearby, there's been other things that have been considered. And yeah, I want to do that. The townhome, the condo, whatever it might be. But this isn't the site for me to do that.
And sometimes I see what we don't see in this marketplace, almost exclusively never see it, that does help to segregate the market conditions. In other words, we have a lot of rental out there, so how do we break away from that? And of course, gated communities. And I don't know if that's ever anything that comes up with developers in this marketplace, which really does give you that segregation. Mm-hmm. That allows you to be right next door to something else, but you're not.
So I just make sure it's clear here. If everything went perfect, we'd end up with a $25 million tax base.
So that is based on our assessor
Right,
taking a look
okay.
at it. I think it's a little lower than the
Yep.
developer had projected, but basically, they're using standard formulas and
That's right.
feel comfortable
That's
with that number.
And basically, our commitment is the $1 million up front to help clean up the grant, to help clean up the area, knock down the buildings and whatever.
Correct.
And then a TIF pay-as-you-go of $5.5 million.
4.5. So the 5.5 is meant to be inclusive, 1 million
Oh,
up front
got it.
plus 4.5 million
Thank you.
on the back end.
Thank you.
22%.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
How many buildings are on that site?
Right now,
Perfect. Yeah.
I think there's 5.
Has it been pretty much determined that all 5 have to come down?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, and they can talk, but I think all 5 have some type of, basically the asbestos comes from the refrigeration component of things. I mean, that was used as an insulent, and that's what's going to come out of there.
Who owns the site today?
The developer owns
The
the site.
developer does own it.
Oh, they do. They do. Okay.
So I'll ask for a motion to open a meeting to public discussion.
Second.
So I'll
Okay, Gary and Tom, those in favor say aye. Opposed, carried.
Okay.
Call them forth. Kevin,
Tell us all about it. Where's Todd? Hi, Todd.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is Todd DeVillers. I'm with RE Commercial, and my partner is Mark Barris, RE Commercial. Paul DeLears from DeLears Construction. His brother Jim can't be with us today, so I just want to introduce the players. Thank you very much for your time today. This is a project that we've been working on for a long time, and large projects take a long time to happen. And it is a large industrial site right now, over 250,000 square feet, and we have multiple bids on how to tear down the buildings, reclaim the site. It's not as just a straight up raising the building type of equation because of all the other infrastructure that's there that has to be totally ripped out and redone. The property was a dated industrial facility, and right now it's got it's concrete structure, it's got great bones. It's never going to come down unless you spend some serious money taking it down. And so this was always our plan B, and our plan B became our plan A. But more and more we looked at, we teamed up with the DeLears, and we submitted a plan originally that was more conformed to what you see in Brown County currently with regards to some of the front loading, two-story type buildings. And when we came forth to the city, they wanted something a little bit more upscale, urban chic, I guess, if you want to take Kevin's word for it. But so we
Better than post meat packing.
Yeah.
This is true.
So we engaged a new architect, Jim LaPlante, who has a lot of experience in the multifamily market, and told him to what can we do to get a little more elevations, because that is supposedly, unless someone can prove me wrong, the highest elevation in the county. But the topo is one of the assets, but yet it's one of the huge challenges. In designing it, we've got, multiple elevations there. We try to, not build the same product type, but, we've got 5 different building designs on the site. And it's, I want to say it's the only, it's a 3-story structure, which you don't see in the suburban market right now in Brown County. You see it downtown on the river, but so our costs are going to be higher than what you're typically seeing being built in the marketplace right now. And I don't think you see this building, anywhere in Northeast Wisconsin. So we're building something that the city had wanted, and I think we got our team together, and we've got our costs in line, and we're ready to move forward. But there's still some major challenges to overcome. Just in the environmental and the tear down. So,
Todd, what's your sort of timeline on getting started on this project?
I wish we could have started 6 months ago. So we're just finding at a point now where we're coming forth to the city, and we've been holding off on spending any additional costs until we know we got this plan that can be implemented.
Good. What is your expected costs per unit, and what are you expecting for rents?
Right now, in your package, your assessor put out like a $25 million assessment on this. Our costs are going to be close to $37 million for 364 units. That's pushing $100,000 a unit is our cost on that. And our rents are going to be comparable to rents currently being marketed in the Green Bay market for a 2-bedroom, 1-bedroom. And we're going to have a little differentiation as far as the 2-bedroom, 2-bath. We're going to have some lofts, which is going to be a little bit different, and every one of our units is going to be overlooking Barrett's Creek, which is going to be another in larger decks. So we're trying to play off some of that.
I'm sorry.
Okay, I'll be quick. Todd, I guess when I ride around town or ride around the county, I see so many apartments going up. So your market study says that there's a room for 364.
How this whole thing started is I was on the University Avenue Steering Committee when we, to create the first initial TIF, and there was three. I don't even know if there was 3 projects, targeted for that initial TIF, but I think Festival happened by accident, and so that fell into first place. But we had always looked to try to come forward on putting this up, but that market study indicated that there was a need for like 300 units in the marketplace. And, we've done our own market studies right now, and I think the northeast side of Green Bay has been neglected for years. There really hasn't, but now you have a lot of infrastructure that hasn't been there before. And I really think the next, coming years, you're going to see the east side, see a lot more growth than it has in the last growth spurt.
A question regarding, your proximity to the university, and I think that's a good tie to the city, et cetera. But can I presume that you're not going to have a rental component that's going to be appealing to the university, to the students?
No, it will be.
It will be
appealing, but yeah, I think it's
But
going
it's
to
gonna
be
be
mixed use.
upscale?
We have multiple buildings. We're going to be, I think, a little bit. I don't want to say higher price points, but it's going to be the nicest product in that sub-market, and we're going to be, we have 2 buildings in the back side, and we're going to probably start one of them with a 55 or older, and see how that goes, and that'll be, its own, building. It's 3 stories with an elevator, and then we've got some other, products that are going to be on the lower level off of Rothy that, those are going to be with detached garages, and, but most of our units are going to have attached garages, so we're going to be offering some amenities that you typically don't see in that northeast side.
However, I do think you're going to see the employees of this university, some faculty at the university.
It's not going to be student housing.
Yeah, that's pretty
That's
pretty
where I was
pricey
going,
for
yeah.
student housing.
That's
I
what I
think
was
we want to
hoping.
connect with the university from a place to work and be
Right.
close to the community.
And I think the student housing is pretty decent out there. I mean, as far as occupancy.
I don't know if it's a Kevin question or whatever, but any feel for the environmental issues?
Feel? Like
Yeah.
how bad they are?
Yeah, right.
Well, I mean, there's asbestos in there. I mean, that's got to be taken off. My understanding from the other stuff, I mean, they had some storage tanks there for fuel and petroleum, but there weren't a lot of toxic other substances out there, so I don't anticipate going through. And I don't know if you have any other things in terms of your base.
No, I mean, we've got multiple bids to, for the asbestos abatement of the building. You got close to 300,000 square feet there. I'd say, about 40% of that, has the big brown cork, and that's glued, for the insulation. And the black tar is the asbestos mastic. So, we would have to sandblast that off the brick, and then we can reclaim the brick, on site. We're going to grind it up and use it as a road base.
So any demolition that's beyond $1 million, the developer's going to take care of?
Right now our expenses are going to be close to about $1.5 million, I think, for the tear down, so we're already coming out of pocket.
All right.
We came forth to, with this developers agreement, and, I guess, we had been going back and forth with Kevin as our costs were getting more and more, locked down, and, I think we're coming to you with a proposal for a 65% TIF. And, your assessment costs, are 30% below our costs. So I think that, your number there is extremely conservative. And, if those numbers hold true, I think, we're right where we probably need to be, but, I don't think that's what those real estate taxes are gonna do. I think that, they're gonna be more close to what our costs are, which, puts another, millions of dollars back in the city's coffers with the higher taxes. But yet, I think if we create that assessment, I still think, we, shouldn't be, capping that at a, $5.5 million number. If we're creating, 40% more, in assessment, we should be able to, garner that. And I think, in the $1 million number, I think our first year will create enough assessment that, your $1 million investment will be protected. And the rest of it's pay as you go. So if we don't build the product, there's no, risk to the city.
So Kevin, you agree with all those comments?
Yeah, I mean, and look, I've got closed session language on here. I mean, I think just the request to
Okay.
remove the cap, it's something you'd like to discuss. I'm comfortable in terms of, money up front, just start protecting our interests, running through the numbers. As Mr. DeViller said, look, if they complete the first phase, that should be enough to, cover the debt service on this property at a pretty conservative interest rate. With that, it'd be structured that, look, you pay back just like we've done with other money up front, you pay back the debt service and that gets taken care of and then the pay-go comes on. In terms of where we arrived at the cap, I think that was one of our negotiating points, and if we want to reconsider that, again, we have the closed session. I think I'll take direction from the RDA on that. We've had caps on some and not on others.
Right.
Again, the advantages, drawbacks of doing that, without a cap, I mean, there is incentive to create additional value.
Yes.
I would just like to get the RDA's feed on where that's at and can be comfortable moving forward with that.
Todd, you've got 6 phases here. These are all done in
5
sequence.
phases.
5?
Yeah.
I thought I counted 6.
What were they?
Yeah,
I copied the wrong
with
site.
through
Sorry.
phase 6, right?
Oh,
But, over a 5-year period is kind of what we're maxing out at.
okay, that's what.
But,
5
and,
years.
right now, in the first year, we got 52 units, and the second year, we got 87 units, so the first 2 years, 139 units. We have finance approval for the first, 2 phases.
A couple questions. On your 55 and older units, what phase is that?
Be in our second phase.
Second phase? Okay. And then just in your experience with building apartments, how many units do you currently own?
We own no apartment units right now. We've been involved in multiple sales of projects. We are commercial real estate, typically, but this project came about, and with Delirious experience as our builders, they have more than enough experience in building multifamily units.
So would your plan then be to build these and then to flip it?
No, build to own.
Okay. And have you talked to management companies or?
Yeah, we have a local firm that manages probably over 2,000 units, and they're going to be our local property management firm.
Okay. It's just the density right now in this area with apartments is, I understand that that's a challenge of putting anything else there is because all around it is apartments.
And the elevations, because you're backing up to Garrett Street, you got 2 dead-end streets coming into you. And then one that I want to bring up on that TIF package also is that, originally, we had asked for that cul-de-sac road to be a city street. That's a 500-foot cul-de-sac. That's not part of the package, so, we're going to have to build that as part of this, development. And then we also get in the fact that with that new road, if you look at that road leaving Court, turning in, it's kind of offset right now, just as a safety factor. We want to line that up. And, so we're not, have a jog there in the connections of the streets.
Is there any opportunity to bring any commercial or office space into this, medical, dental centers, things like that, that might be able to add to the value? And
we don't own the 1.8 acre parcel to the west, but we do own the 1 acre parcel fronting, University Avenue.
Okay.
We've had conversations with, those owners, and we do a lot of work in that arena. And the north east side of town has a lot of, 2-3 acre sites available right now. So, I mean, you got to, but with everything going on there in Festival and University, I do believe, you're going to see maybe some even nationals look to, some of those sites to do some things. But, it's not going to happen overnight, but, you definitely, this is the 2 good foot forward.
Okay. That's,
Any more questions? Motion to return regular to business?
well, I don't know if there's others that want to speak.
Oh,
We open the floor
was
up
there
here.
some? Forward, yeah.
Thank you.
Didn't see you back there.
Thanks, Todd.
Don't have to mention that you work for Hudson Sharp.
Yeah, I'm not even here for that. I can speak to that one too if you like. Brad Hopp, Newtoll Street, Green Bay. A couple of things as a property owner and a homeowner in that area. Okay, right now there's 250 open units, rental units, within a few miles of that zip code, 54302. Okay. If you look at a map, and I sent it to the alderman last night, and I think Alderman Moore, I think it'd be safe to say that probably 90% of the surrounding, probably couple miles of that site is already rental properties. My concern is this. One, I want to thank the development company. I think they've taken the step by purchasing the property. I thank them for that. Something needs to be done there. I'm not opposed to developing that property at all. It would be great. I just don't know that multifamily housing is the way to go. Because my question is, what kind of additional growth are we encouraging by that? Do we want fast food restaurants and haircut joints and things that fit with that kind of growth, or do we want some long-term sustainable investment in that area? So if we go with multifamily, my concern is that we're not going to see that long-term sustainable investment into the area, but rather that kind of 5-10 years in and out kind of stuff. And that's what concerns me as a property owner there. And Kevin said it best, we're in a predicament. There's so much rental property there that it's going to be hard to find anything else because nobody wants to do anything as far as residentially there. Well, imagine being a homeowner in that area. What is that going to do to our property values just by adding more of that rental property? I think Wendy said and made a comment in the paper that, in regards to the topography and that we want this area, we want our pride to shine through this property. Is that really how we're going to be proud of 16 multifamily units sitting on top of one of the highest spots in the city of Green Bay? That's pristine property. I don't know what the answer is, and maybe when more information comes out and the residents can view this, we'll feel a little bit differently. But I would caution us very much so to move slowly on this as far as vetting this project before we just jump full scale into it. Yes, there were those of us that kept an eye on the university development, but there were a lot of people that kind of sat back and waited. We just found out about this. About a month ago, it was kind of referenced that there would be something coming. And then the paper came out that Saturday that it would be at this meeting. So to even get residents together in time to kind of hash this out has been a challenge. Now I understand we've got the council meeting coming up on the 23rd that we can bring this to, and maybe that's the better forum for this. But I guess I'm asking for the RDA to maybe just hang on to this for another month and let it kind of soak in once the media gets a hold of it and sees what's looking to be done. The Scogan family really did us a favor by putting the festival foods there.
Yes.
I mean, that was a huge investment on their part. I think all those in the administration, the city administration, should be congratulated on being able to work that deal. I'd be interested in knowing how they would feel if they knew that one of the pristine properties in that area was going to be turned over to residential multi-housing spots. Now, it's going to be bodies, no doubt, but I don't know that from an investment standpoint that 15, 20 years from now, what is that going to look like for that store? I don't know. Finally, if I'd be interested in knowing, I know we talked about the price points on the rental units, but in the paper there was comments made that there might be, I think the tag word was affordable housing and different things like that. So once we look at this, hopefully it breaks that down to know exactly what kind of housing units these were going to be versus just high end, because there's 16 units. That's 16 buildings up on top of that hill that I would highly doubt is going to be grabbing pristine rental on all 360 units. So in closing, I guess I would just ask the RDA just to maybe sit on this just for 1 month until this information can get disseminated out, and then we can, as a group of residents, kind of see if that's what really we want, because ultimately we're the ones that are left living next to it, basically. So that's it.
Okay, thank you.
Kevin, we did a university strategic plan a year ago?
Probably 2 years ago, the Brownfield Redevelopment Corridor
Right.
plan study.
Was this area addressed as far as what they projected would be the best use?
Yes, so primarily residential for this area. I think to Mr. Weber's point about just talking about a mix of ownership types within there. I think one of the things that we pushed on in terms of at least layout, from the traditional or just what you see in the suburbs kind of apartment plan to more of a focused neighborhood plan. I think if you get in the packet, the third or the renderings towards the end show just look, it's an integrated network of streets and trails and pedestrian connections that, we'll go back to, we have a trail extending down University Avenue that's going to go out to the university and then back to Festival and back into the city. That reflects that concept a little more closely in terms of what we were looking for there. It's not as big of a mix of use because it's still rental units, but, I think the developer, to his credit, pushing different styles, different types of housing, and again, different products that we don't have in that area. But then also, reserving that area up on University itself for some commercial uses, so it gets towards that mixed use. And I think, in these plans, we try and balance, okay, here's what we'd like to see here, here's what the opportunity is, and it's up to us to make the decision, do we feel this conforms with the plan and supports those objectives.
But from the city's point of view, and as far as the tip as you go, it is broken down into phases, so there would be a checkpoint after each phase?
Yeah, basically like all of our other pay-goes. It's project comes online, let's say it's constructed this year, it comes online in 2018, that means it's taxable 1/1 of 19 with the pay-go then starting that year after that. So, we would have a good sense of when those things, basically, yes, would come in along this phase.
Okay.
If I could just add.
We need to return regular order.
On that, Harry. One is, market saturation. We talk about that with hotels too once in a while. The fact isn't we're not getting overbuilt. We're under demolished. We don't have the right product. And these hotels, and I'm surprised there's not a better photo in here. It will remind you of some of these things they're building in Minneapolis, which are very successful. It's a different product. It's a little higher end product. And I want to tell you that the Scogans are very pleased we're looking at residential. This is going to complement what they do in that area, and we're confident this fits with our plan. So it's been there. We've got a good developer that's looking at phasing this thing with some pretty high end. There's no market. It's all market rate. I know somebody made something about workforce housing. That's not part of this plan. So, no, we feel good about it.
Okay, we should return to regular order. If nobody else wants to speak, make that motion to return to regular order.
Tag, go ahead.
Oh, thank you. I had them, but I just didn't know. I think this is what, Mayor, you were referring, just some of the
Right.
design images.
I think we should see that.
Gonna pass those around.
Make a motion to return to regular order.
Second.
Motion by Joe, second by Tom, return to regular order of business. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
I'll make a comment. I don't mind. Just want to comment on this. With 250 open units in that 54302 area, to bring in these 360 units that have higher rents, I think you can charge higher rents downtown because people can walk out their front door and go to the city deck and go to a restaurant and walk to a bar or whatever they want to do down here. They can recreate. You've got Baird's Creek, but you really have no other amenities. There's not even a sports bar in the area. Are people going to pay those rents when they still have to drive anywhere they want to go for entertainment or to do anything? I don't have a problem with multifamily being here, but I think with as many vacant units there are right now that have lesser rents, it would make more sense to maybe lighten the density a little bit from over 360 units and to bring in some more commercial. I don't know Deliriers can certainly build commercial. It's just a matter of seeing if they can make it work with, leasable commercial property. But to have, some office space, some medical, dental, whatever up on there that can actually serve that community that's there right now and actually have some services there, I think that office space or commercial space would probably lease pretty well, to the right people if it's marketed the right way. Another thing is that this is a 5-year project, and the term sheet doesn't really have any kind of a guaranteed value on an annual basis. And I would like our city staff to take a look at guaranteeing some TIF value. We're at about 22% right now, which I don't think is a terrible ask. But a $30 million project at a guaranteed TIF gets that percentage down to 18%, which I think is much more reasonable. We just did a guaranteed TIF with the Cub Foods development, where our assessments came in low, but they're willing to pay the difference to make sure the project can happen. And I think that's another thing we need to look at. As our TIF districts are more scrutinized, we need to make sure that we're getting the most value that we can out of it, on the city side. I think I'm going to make a motion that we refer this back to staff to take a look at a few of those items and see if we can further negotiate this, again, for guaranteed TIF value on an annual basis, and to see if bringing in more of a mixed use would be more advantageous to us.
Oh, we have a motion by Joe. Do we have a second?
Yeah, I'll second that.
It's not the worst idea.
No, it's actually a very good idea. My concern, Ken, goes back, and when Joe brought up the point of amenities, I think one of the amenities is the property itself. I mean, it's a nice high parcel, and the proximity to Barrett's Creek in that area is probably pretty good. There not going to be any sports bars there until that's the follow, unless you develop with that as the master plan. You carve out an area and you say, whatever it is, well, we've got the grocery chain, but you bring in an upscale or the scale that you want for the community, parcel of land, and this is going to be, we're going to have the bank here, we're going to have the dental office or whatever, we're going to have those things here, and that's what this is for, so that they grow together, they come up together. I'm still very disappointed that we're just don't seem to be able to pull together that investment, that development that brings into the living components. We sometimes, our rearview mirror, we can look at a number of projects in a number of areas in the city where I think if it was today, we'd say no. Mm-hmm. Okay. But we get a little quick to get the development going and get it on track and get that base. But is it the right base? And I'm not convinced it is. Joe brought up excellent points with the other services not being there and the density. I mean, do we have, in fact, 250 units that are on long-standing available? Now we're going to have another 300 and some out there. Certainly these will go if they're built as designed and as said. I don't know how fast or whatever, but then if there's 250 vacant availability out there now, is that going to raise to 350 or what have you? And then, as the mayor mentioned, the problem might be in how quickly we tear down parts of our city to make available good development and successful development. So I'm kind of squeamish on this.
At first I heard that 250. Is that a verification number? Is that true?
That's the first I've heard of the number. I'd have to dig in a little more just to verify. It seems high, but maybe looking at downtown and some other places, but could look into that.
Okay. I guess I'd want to know what the proximity is as well.
Yeah.
Joe, do you have a thought as to whether a lot of those empty apartments should be torn down, for example? Or?
No, there's a real big mix over there. There's some really nice apartment complexes. I saw Nick Allard was here earlier from Tunin. I think that they've got some really nice properties over there that are well maintained. But then there is, as you go up Humboldt Road, there's some properties that are left to be run down a little bit, and they're not probably as well maintained. It's interesting if you take a look at crime statistics and see where they are in this area as well, where a lot of police calls go. Not saying this is going to bring a bunch of police calls to high-end apartments, but I think the more density you bring in, you just maybe bring in some additional issues that could come up.
Can we verify the 250 vacant apartments?
I actually just got that number from Mr. Hopp. Actually, I'm not sure where that came from.
Can that be verified?
I don't know.
We're members of the,
I can send it to you.
I'm sure you.
Yeah.
I'm looking. The Apartment Association, Cheryl.
Yeah, that could be.
Okay.
It's just very informal, apartments.com in that area. All right, 2 mile spread from the site, you're looking at 62 apartments available right now. But again, I think the Apartment Association, Mr. Hopp wants to submit some sources of data, just get a better picture around. And that's just apartments. I'm not even looking at numbers and things like that.
I think it's a very exciting project. We're going to be doing something with a piece of property that's been vacant for quite a while, and we get a chance to do something. But by the same token, if we can get more information and tweak it, so be it. It's the first time we've looked at it, so there's nothing wrong with that.
Right, I certainly don't want to kill it. And just,
right. I
want to
understand.
maximize it.
I understand.
Okay, well, we've had a motion by Joe. Did you second it, Tom?
I did.
And that a number of questions were raised on the project. I think that we have a lot of support for the project, but we would like to have some answers to some of the questions. And so I'll call for a vote on the motion. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Have we given you enough info to Kevin as far as what we're looking for?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know. I guess maybe if you guys are still willing to just open it back up and go into closed session, just I want to get maybe a little bit into the negotiations, just so I don't want to waste our time. I don't want to waste the developer's time going back and forth, and I'd rather have just a better picture. Sorry to make everybody clear out of the room, but I just think in terms of negotiation,
good idea.
Let's get on so that I can bring back something that either fits your criteria or the developer can decide.
So do you need a reconsideration then on the...
Yeah, take a reconsideration.
Take a reconsideration on the item. That's my motion.
Second that.
Well, and then make a motion to go into closed session.
Okay, yeah, I'll read down the closed session.
Yes.
The authority may convene in closed session pursuant to Section 1985 1E Wisconsin statutes for the purpose of deliberating or negotiating the sale of public properties, investing in public funds, or conducting other specified public business as necessary for competitive or bargaining reasons. The authority may thereafter reconvene in open session pursuant to sections 1985-2 Wisconsin statutes to report the results of the closed session and consider the balance of the agenda.
All right, Harry Meyer.
Yes.
Gary Delvaux.
Yes.
Jim Blumrecht. Alderman Joe Moore.
Yes.
Matt Schuler. I apologize if I just asked right before.
Yeah.
Blumrecht. Yes. Alderman Joe Moore. Yep. Matt Schuler.
Yes.
Tom Woodruff.
Yes. We're going to be seeing every stage of, the lighting. What we have here is, just such an overview of the plan. We have the streetscape plans and all and everything else, and that would all be part of the...
That would all be required as part of a development agreement
Right.
to go through. I think this is, as we talked about many projects, look, it's a litmus test, a temperature check, whatever you want to call it, of where are things at before we spend a lot of time and energy, both on our side and the developer side, to do those sorts of things. And I think we've got, through our discussions, some good points to go back and discuss with the developer. So if your motion is still to hold, we will do that and come back with something.
Yeah, I would make that motion to direct this back to staff, refer this back to staff to continue negotiations as discussed in closed session.
Second.
Is that a motion?
Yeah.
Motion second?
I second.
All right. Motion second. You all heard the motion in the second. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Passed. Everybody in? Looks like. During the closed session, the RDA staff members had a long discussion on the various proposals for this site, and instructed Kevin Vonk as the director to take up some of those issues with the developer and report back to us at our next meeting. Number 3, consideration and possible action on to amend the 2016 CDBG annual action plan for the transfer of $30,000 to be used to fund one half of the neighborhood support assistance program. position? I bet you that's Cheryl's.
That is me, actually.
Boy, Meyer.
Actually, right, what I'd like to do is take a part-time position that we currently have as the support assistant, support specialist, and reclassify that to a full-time position. Currently, that part-time position is funded entirely with private dollars through the Green Bay Neighborhood Leadership Council. The other half of this position, what I'm proposing is to use block grant dollars to fund the other half. Some of the things we used to do in the past when we had more time, staff time and allocations, and we used to be able to do a lot more grassroots input from neighbors with regards to our block grant funds. And I think of the event center neighborhood, for example, will be a great opportunity for us to get down there and find out from the neighbors what things they're looking for, as well as helping them through the development process. You know, we can use block grant money for streets, sidewalks, lighting, housing, all kinds of initiatives, and it's really been staff driven. We'd like to get more input from neighborhoods at that time. If you look at the map of our block grant target area, apparently peach is the color today. The peach orangey area is actually our block grant designated HUD target area of where we can use our block grant dollars. And there's over 20 neighborhood associations that are affected by those areas. So I see this as a good combination of uses for these dollars. It also helps stabilize this part-time position, which is very hard to keep filled. It's a part-time. The job is a great job, but there's a big learning curve on it because nobody really gets a major in neighborhoods.
Takes a while.
It takes a while to train people, and we see turnover in that. So I think by creating this full-time position, that would be helpful. If the RDA approves this allocation of dollars, it will go to personnel, where I'll have to get approval from the personnel committee and the council for this to be a full-time position.
So all we can do is make a recommendation.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I would just mention that when this comes to joint finance personnel in November, and if we're looking at adding this as a full-time staff, that we have a report of what that position had accomplished, and when we determine funding for moving forward on it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, look for a motion or any
Questions?
The money is in the action plan? I mean, the money is available?
Yes,
It's
we have
easy.
the money available, but we need to transfer it, which is
Yep.
why we need the
Yep.
30-day comment period. And the Leadership Council did approve their half of the funding, which was an increase in the budget for them as well.
Do you see this as the last year for the split? That next year would,
No, actually, I think the budget's going to be tight this year, in honesty, for the city, so I would see this
continuing on. and
continuing
then
maybe
the
next
split
year with block grant as well, making a request with block grant and Leadership Council, but
Eventually, maybe.
Mhm.
Who knows?
it's a dream I have. Might take a while, it might take
You
some
have
years.
a lot of those.
I got a lot of time.
Dreams.
I know, I got a lot of time.
Oh, that's good.
second? Yes, okay.
Who made them?
Wait, what was the motion?
The motion is to,
Approve. Right? That was the motion?
yes, right.
And then, okay, that's
Right.
the second. I just want to make sure.
Who made that motion?
Well, I'm
You heard the motion by Gary, second by Tom then to amend the 2016 CDBG adding action plan to transfer $30,000 to be used to fund one half of the neighborhood support system program. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried. We had another addenda to the agenda. 3A, consideration of possible action on request by KPH Northland Hotel LLC for a $500,000 bridge loan for redevelopment of the Hotel Northland at 304 North Adams Street. Kevin?
All right, so we are talking about the Hotel Northland. With that, I wanted to bring in on the phone Keith Horrenda with KPH Construction. He is one of the partners in the project, and as I'll discuss, is going to be the primary principal in the project moving forward. So he is in Milwaukee. I just wanted to pull on speakerphone and just have him introduce, and just have him available for comment for the Redevelopment Authority.
Hello, KPH. How may I help you?
Hi, is Keith Horrenda available?
Sure. May I say who's calling?
Sure, this is the Redevelopment Authority from the City of Green Bay.
All right, one moment, please.
Thank you. Hey Keith, this is Kevin Vaughn. How are you? Hold on, I'm going to get you on speakerphone here. All right, Keith, we are sitting at the Redevelopment Authority. We just moved on to your agenda item. I wanted to get you on the phone. We are in open session right now. Just before I start discussing this subject, would you just like to introduce yourself and any other parties that you have with you?
Sure. I've got myself this year. I've got Brigitte Breitenbach with me also. I'd like to, do you want me to just talk a little bit about myself first, or?
Sure. I mean, I guess what I wanted to do is I'm going to frame up the issue a little bit in terms of discussing where we're at, the request that is on the table today for the $500,000 loan. I think I would like to have you talk a little bit about, your role in the project and moving forward with it. And then also, be available if the RDA has any questions, for you or Brigitte. So just to open up, the project is moving along. If you've been over there or been around there, see a lot of construction going on. The building got sealed up before winter, and it more or less is about 70% complete. Staff was over there just the other week going through, working a lot of the detail work right now, staining the main lobby. And it's really coming together and looking excellent. One of the reasons we're here is to talk about, originally in this project, our senior lender was First Merit. First Merit, local bank came in very excited about the project. However, very shortly after closing and moving forward, Huntington Bank acquired First Merit Bank. Huntington did not have an appetite for doing a hotel project. More or less, we have been negotiating and working with Huntington, trying to retain them as a senior lender. And I think, if you've seen this project, there's a capital stack involved, and there's a lot of financial partners involved, other banks, other lending institutions, and all of us were trying to work to say, hey, Huntington, how can we make this project work? How can we make this go forward?
So it's like two strikes, right? One is Huntington didn't have an appetite for hotels. Secondly, they're not in this market. But with that said, we spent a lot of time with them.
Weeks, months. It finally got to a point where Huntington said, you know what, we're out. We are not going to be the senior lender in this project. So with that, it kind of left to the rest of the parties, moving towards, all right, who else do we bring in then to take the senior debt? Huntington, can you at least, give us some help us make some connections and bring in some other financial institutions to make it work. With that, the parties basically had a few options. Once we knew things weren't, negotiations were kind of not getting anywhere with Huntington, brought in some options, and I think right now we are at a point where we have another senior lender, whose name not to be disclosed yet, who's ready to step in to this project. With that, because of this delay, we have, basically tapped into our other resources to move forward. The project's gotten delayed, and we have basically a gap that's been created by pushing this back. What they are looking for is a $500,000 loan in order to fill that gap. Basically, that gap was created by this delay in the project. In order to move forward with that, Keith has looked at taking a more vested role in the project and has been looked at, has now taken on full ownership of the project. Originally, when this project started, it was a partnership between Mike Frantz and FCI and investors, and then Keith Arenda and KPH Construction. In order to move forward with the new senior lender, the senior lender said, look, we've got to make a decision in terms of ownership with that, and would not move forward until there was a decision in terms of who was going to be owning the hotel with that partnership. Keith, I think has taken a much more aggressive role and sees the value in moving the hotel. And look, there's other projects that Franz, you've seen, has been involved in. And why I wanted to have Keith on the phone is to talk about, look, Keith has been a little more to this date a quiet partner in the project, but I think he's got a strong skill set with him, and he's added a lot of value to this project, and wanted to have him available to talk about just where we're tracking and where we're going to be moving forward. So in short, the request that's before you today, KPH is looking for a $500,000 loan. Again, this is to fill this gap that's been created while we've been in limbo without a senior lender. With that, they're requesting $500,000 that would be advanced to them at closing. So again, the purpose all along is to get a senior lender replacement. So the terms would be, we don't give the $500,000 until this project closes with a new senior lender. I mean, that's the whole point of this, is to get a new senior lender. And then with that, the $500,000, we've talked about terms, and discussed this a little bit with the finance director. 2% interest, which is going to be calculated from the date of closing with the senior lender, and then we'll work on a repayment schedule. We've got the HUB loan with them. We'll look at some of those terms. That's a really complicated federal term, so we just want to do something a little more simple. But in short, again, this request is basically to fill the gap and to keep the project moving. We're at a point right now, again, 70% complete. We've got contractors there on site, big contractors, local contractors, and we don't want to have this Huntington withdrawal cause the project to shut down. I don't know, we've been through some projects before that have shut down, and it's very expensive to get those back up and rolling again. And so with this, the request here is for that loan to continue the project moving along.
We're going to say that the 100 contractors on site are Creek Garrett, Faith Technologies, Verhalen. These are local people.
Yeah, local people.
And if the project shuts down for 2 or 3 weeks, they're not going to find temporary work. They're going to find another larger project. So, we looked at this and talked about this for some time, and while we wish we didn't have to be here, we're confident that the senior lender is going to be in place. They've been on site 2 or 3 times. I know Provenance has been on site as the operator manager who manages 7 other hotels they're excited about. They were in last week, and we have this gap. And we talked last week at length, and really on Friday decided we need to come to the RDA. I mean, this closing will happen in weeks, and then the ribbon cutting in months. It's that close. You were just through there.
Yeah, I was there.
We want the city council to go through there this week if they could. Some of them haven't been through there in months. And when you look at that, and they're staining, and you walk into the bathroom and the tiles
it's
and
beautiful.
the shower racks are in there. I can see a day when people couldn't see that, right?
Right.
And might think it's going to be office or it's going to be apartments, but it's going to be, the nicest hotel north of Milwaukee, and
Yeah.
we're close to that. But we need RDA and the city council to bridge this gap. And I think Keith knows more about this than anybody, but I want to tell you, we know a lot about it.
I did go through it about 2 weeks ago, I guess it was.
Right.
I mean, it is obvious this was the gem of downtown Green Bay, and it's going to be once again, without a doubt, the gem of downtown Green Bay. I guess my number one question is confidence level and the senior lender. Keith, I'll listen to you first. So confidence level that we're going to get this senior lender? What percentage?
Yeah, this is Keith Arenda. Just to back up, I'd like to just say a little bit about KPH for those who don't know me. KPH has been a 50% partner and co-developer of Hotel Northland for more than 2 years now. We serve as a general contractor and lead developer, and I'm involved in every aspect of this development. My firm, we're a full-service general contractor founded in 1999. We specialize in commercial redevelopment, environmental, and historic restoration. We are a preferred provider to the U.S. government and currently working in 6 states. As both the GC and developer of Hotel Northland, I have more than 100 employees and subcontractors currently working on this project. And I can tell you wholeheartedly that 7 days a week, from morning to night, all I think about is the Hotel Northland. And I often see the mayor on a weekly basis just to give him an update. So that's a little bit of background on myself. And to answer your question, yes, I feel very confident that we're going to have the senior lender in place very quickly. We've been working on this very hard for the last 3 months, and I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. So that much I can tell you.
Kevin, is this a short-term loan then, or what's the length of time on it?
Correct. We would look at a payback period, again, to be dispersed upon the closing. We have yet to talk about the specific payback period, if there's some parameters that the RDA would like to put out there. I think, look, we don't want another loan hanging out there for 20 years.
Right.
It's also, you're starting a business and getting up and running. It's maybe a little tough to ask for it all on day one of opening. But if there's some parameters that you'd be comfortable in terms of pushing forward, I mean, we have closed session on here. We could discuss about that point. But I think a reasonable amount of time period that, look, allows both us to recoup our investment. Talking to the finance director, I think a lot of our investments right now are at, 0.6%, 0.7%. So in terms of parking our money here versus parking it in another investment account, initially, somewhere can we look at that 5-year, that 10-year payback period, something shorter. But again, we'll take some direction from the RDA in terms of that. And I think we can work on some of those details, but if there's specific things that you'd like to put in there, I think now is the time to discuss those. And if Keith has any comments on what he would like to offer up, I think this is the time to get some of those points out there.
I have a question, maybe Kevin. Is this an appropriate time in open session to discuss what the original Huntington's original committee was? Or
yeah. We can go through. I mean, the initial, and Keith, you can correct me. I'm just looking off the sworn statement in terms of the initial first mortgage was going to be for $12.8 million.
Correct.
So, if I'm understanding this bridge, and this is just terminology, I guess from me, I look at bridge a little bit different. This is more of a gap. We're filling a gap.
Correct. And just to be clear, it was stated as a bridge loan in the agenda item. This is more of a gap.
Gap loan.
Yes, correct.
Gap financing.
And Keith, you would be open to, I know we're going to reassess the property, and maybe the assessment over the debt looks very positive, but we do have a ramp up of 3 years of getting this business running. So would you be look at something in a 5-year payback? Is that something you're open to?
Yeah, I think the 5-year payback is something that the other lender group would be looking for. 5 years is tied to the historic tax credits, even though the refinancing can happen sooner. So the request would be for 5 years, which would match up with the other junior lenders, and would also match up with the new senior lender. And again, it's tied back to the historic tax credits, which is typically a 5-year program.
Just quick question.
That all being said, the refinancing or the takeout to a non-recourse loan can happen sooner, but the request is 5 years.
And is that balloon, or are you amortizing, or your interest only, or what are we doing? What are the terms of that loan for 5 years?
Session.
Yeah, I
Closed
think.
session?
Yeah, I
Okay.
think we should talk. Yeah.
Keith, I want the RDA to hear, and the media is here as well, and we have been at this if the RDA and the City Council approve this, you would move to closing in a pretty short order. You're the contractor. You've been working on this for 2 years. When is the grand opening? When is that hotel going to be operating if we do this?
Hey, Mayor, this is Bridget Breitenbach. If it's okay, I'll field that question. So if we assume that the construction would look like an 18-month build-out, that would get the hotel open in June. As soon as we have our senior lender in place, we'll feel comfortable announcing an opening date. But right now, what we're telling people is if they're interested in things like events at the Northland, that they should reach out, check out our website, and get on a list, because we are going to start discussing reservations for sometime after August of this year. But our hope is to get open as soon as possible, and so we're saying summer.
My question gets back to the confidence level again. Keith, the mayor, senior lender, 100% confidence level?
Gary, that's pretty high.
I feel, short of saying that it's a sure thing, I feel very strongly where we're headed, and not to try to jinx anything, we're looking to try to have this all solidified. We're looking at the end of January for a closing.
If I could just add, you guys, this financial entity wants to do the job.
Yes.
They want to do it, and we have been maybe on bended knee with some other people asking them to do it, and so the confidence level is high.
Yeah, and just for what it's worth, Keith, this is Kevin again. Just the time that we've spent with it, since we were looking for this replacement, there's been alternatives that have been discussed, and I think the senior lender that is set to close right now has stepped up and been much more aggressive than any other alternative that we've had in terms of getting people up here, getting people to see the project, getting people interested in the city, and has moved at a much more rapid pace than anyone that we've discussed. And I would definitely, yes, put my confidence level high in that this is going to be the one that moves forward. All the other steps are in place, and they've been aggressively doing their due diligence to make this happen. And as the mayor said, they want to be here. They want to be a part of this project.
Is the reason that they're not the senior lender today because of approval in their chain, board approval, committee approval or something? Or, I mean, you're saying they want to be the senior lender, correct? So, but they've not committed to being the senior lender?
Correct.
Okay, what is the hurdle?
The hurdle was an ownership issue of the prior ownership structure. They wanted a single owner. That issue was resolved last Friday. Now they are ready to move forward.
Okay, so they're pretty well in the...
That was the last hurdle, and Keith, you can correct me if I'm wrong, that was the last hurdle to overcome, and that was taken care of last Friday, and now they can take it to their committee and board and start putting the pieces together.
Correct.
This means that
They are, we've been in contact with them nonstop, and they have their loan committee meeting. I don't recall what date it is, but it's coming up within the next 2 weeks. And I believe it's a Tuesday, but it's the goal is to be solidified by the end of the month. And there's small pieces that need to be done, and we've handled that. And until now, we haven't been able to ask the city for this help until we resolved all these pieces that are now moving in the right direction.
But Keith, in terms of the new senior owner, you have reviewed this confidentially with other members of the capital stack, and they're on board.
That is correct. In order to make this all work, the new senior lender has to obviously fit into what everybody else wants, and every junior lender, including the city, has been asked for certain things. Nothing that's been outrageous, but certain things that would make this deal work. And everybody has agreed to those, or seemingly agreed to those, and are moving forward. So because it's a complex stack, it took some time to get everybody moving in unison in the right direction.
I got a question for Diane. How you doing, Diane? Terms that are in the loan to protect the city. So what are some of the terms that are going to be part of the loan? At closed session? Okay.
Yeah, and
okay, that's fine.
That's fine. That's fine. Parameters. It's a gap loan. It's a short-term loan. Okay. But I think in terms of some of the specifics of that, I'd like to discuss that in closed session. And
good point. Sorry about that.
Things. Yep.
Right, I'm sorry.
Kevin, does this mean that the France investors are entirely out?
That is correct. Yep, and I think you've seen, as you mentioned in the paper, they've got a lot of things going on. I mean, Mike Fran's team did a fabulous job of getting this project ramped up, queued up. They've moving forth Hotel Rutlaw in Fond du Lac, project in Wausau. They've got hotels in Iowa, and so at this point it's going to be Keith and KPH moving forward.
And they're pleased with this, Harry. We've had, these are friends of ours, the France boys. And, you wrote the article, Northwind Mission Accomplished.
Right.
Those of us who've been in business, it sometimes is good to have majority ownership, especially when you get closer to the finish line. And I think they have that, at the Ret Walk and some other places. And, it was a lot of great handshakes and, make sure you bring us to the ribbon cutting. There's no animosity in this at all, but I think the bank was looking for one decision maker. I think some of us financing people were looking for quicker decisions, and I think the stars kind of came together last week. So no hard feelings, very supportive of the city, and we're very grateful to them. But they have exited the project.
Well, Kevin, you suggested we go into closed session then?
Yeah, I think if we were going to talk about, negotiating our loan terms and what those may be, and in terms of where the RDA would be comfortable with, arranging a little more of the details of the structure, I think that is appropriate to do so in a closed
Is there
session.
anything before we do that Keith wants to bring up in open session, or?
Yeah, Keith, before we go into closed session, is there anything that you'd want to say open session for the RDA members?
No, I just like to thank the city for its continued support. I look forward to opening this great hotel very soon.
Guy, you have something? Okay.
Kevin, do you want me to be in closed session, or do you want me to hang up?
Probably what we'll do is we'll probably have you hang up, and we'll discuss in closed session, and then maybe open back up once we've kind of had our side of negotiations. So,
Okay, and then Keith, you are available to give tours tomorrow to council members or members of the RDA.
Yes, in fact, I am going to be on site tomorrow from 10:30 until whenever.
Okay.
And anybody that wants to come through, please give me a call. Mayor, you've got my cell number.
I'll send it out right after this meeting.
And I'd be more than happy to coordinate anybody that's there, because just this week we're starting the restaining of the new color of the historic wood in the lobby, and I'm looking forward to seeing the transition myself.
When we're down to staining, we're getting pretty close, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, Keith, just don't leave town during our closed session.
I'm not going anywhere, so give me a call back, Kevin, and I'll be available if you need me. And again, thank you all for your support.
sure, thank you. We'll call you in a little bit.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Keith.
Tom?
Make a motion, we go into closed session.
Second.
Second.
Motion second.
Guy had a question, I think. Did you want
okay.
Did you want to let Guy speak first?
No, he said no.
Who said no?
Guy did.
I never said no to anything.
I asked you whether you wanted to say anything. You said no.
No.
Raise my hand.
Go ahead.
When I saw this added to the agenda, I thought a bridge loan, well, when you think of a bridge loan, it's somebody's moving to another city and they're waiting for their house to be sold, and when it's sold, it's paid off. And it's just something to bridge them and allow them to move and do what they want to do. And those usually are pretty short-term affairs. I came here, I thought, well, what's going on? It sounds like there's a different owners involved here now, or whatever. For whatever reason, we heard from that the new lenders, from what the mayor said, just want to deal with one entity, not a group of entities. It sounds like to me, but it sounds like to me that they're like $500,000 short or something. This is not a bridge loan that, well, as soon as the new lender comes on, it would be wrapped into the total loan that they have. This is another risk capital on the part of the city of Green Bay. Where is it on the list of payback? Right at the very end, right? Everybody else gets paid first.
Well, not in the long term.
Discuss
That
it.
we had generally made some discussion of terms, but I think we'd like to solidify that a little bit. But we were talking about.
I mean, if this was just to get it to
5.
closing, and then they were wrapping
I understand.
the
This is a gap.
$500,000 into the total loan that they're getting from those people, and then we pay back, and it was just a matter of we need this short-term gap.
But Dr. Vonk had
But
clarified
it
that.
sounds like, no, they need more money. They need more money to complete this project. And they're asking us for that money, and they're saying that they think they can pay it back in
But it's-
5 years, in 5 years.
But it's the effect of an unknown cause. I mean, nobody knew that the senior lender was going to pull up and pull out, and that's what's, from my understanding, that's what I've been,
Well,
and those things are unforeseen.
I'm
It's
just
not.
remembering when we guaranteed the last $5 million loan that they took out,
Mhm.
this group. We had to put up our community development block grant funds as a guarantee. And, well, we said, oh, they're giving their personal guarantees and all that on top of it. When we asked this, what I thought was just a basic question of, well, what are they putting up for collateral or whatever? it was like insulting them or something. And I don't know, that to me that's standard business in the banking world. But we've already put all the money that's used to build our older neighborhoods, we put a lot of that up in jeopardy if this project doesn't financially play out as planned over the next 1, 2, 5, 10 years, whatever it is. If it fails, we're already on the hook, and we got to take it out of our neighborhoods to cover it. And now there's another $500,000 they want on top of it. Is there no end to the floodgate? It's just, I think these are things we got to talk about in closed session, but putting bridge loan here is a real misnomer. Now, I see that you're talking about gap. I don't know if gap and bridge are the same thing, but bridge loan is usually almost a technicality. In other words,
Well, we could discuss that in
when
closed
the other
session.
sells, it's paid off immediately. That's not what this case is. They're looking for more money from us, from what I see.
Correct. And I think, to your
Correct.
point, Alderman Zima, yes. And to Mr. Weber's point in terms of the unforeseen delays of added carrying costs of 6 months of in limbo that this project has gotten pushed back. They've continued to work, but they've had to slow down work because, look, until we have that senior lender in place, we can't spend those funds. We don't have those funds to spend. I think in terms of, in closed session, I'd like to discuss a little bit about collateral and about the project and about the stack and about the value and about what's
KPH
protected.
doesn't have any money?
Yep.
KPH is just some kind of holding company that doesn't have any money? They need to borrow $500,000 on a $44 million project from us at the very end of the end of the game? I know this sounds very odd to me. What kind of people are we dealing with that can't finish their projects?
We've already hung up, so.
Yep.
Middle of South Bend.
Closed session.
Yeah. Can we move then to close?
Yeah.
Joe made the motion.
Okay.
Language?
I will read.
I second.
Motion second, move.
The authority may convene in closed session pursuant to section 955 of the Wisconsin statutes for the purpose of deliberating or negotiating the investment of public funds or conducting other specified public business as necessary for competitive or bargaining reasons. The authority may thereafter reconvene in open session pursuant to section 1985-2 of the Wisconsin statutes to report the results of the closed session and consider the balance of the agenda.
Call the roll.
Harry Meyer?
Yes.
Gary Delvaux?
Yes.
Jim Blumrick? Yes. Alderman Joe Moore?
Yes.
Matt Schuler?
Here.
Tom Weber?
Here.
You going to read the roll call again?
All right. Back into open session. Harry Meyer?
Yeah.
Yes.
Gary Delvaux?
Yes.
Jim Blumrick? Alderman Joe
Okay.
Moore has to be excused. Matt Schuler?
Here.
And Tom Weber.
Deer hunting's over, by the way. Deer hunting is over, in case I didn't tell you.
Hey, he's a Navy guy.
Okay, so
Not really.
No, not really. Navy people. I wore one of those a long time.
Beat up a Navy guy.
Who made the motion
That what it
to, who's making the motion?
Yes, I'm going to give you the language.
Oh, okay, give me the language. Oh, the guy with bad eyes here.
Somebody called with it.
I emailed. No.
Are we in open session?
Yes.
We're in open
We are.
session.
Okay. Make a motion to advance the loan as requested. Be $500,000 loan with annual.
It does need to be stated it's a gap loan, not a bridge loan.
Correct.
Did I say bridge?
So you didn't,
No,
you
just
didn't-
clarifying. Yes.
Oh, yeah, a $500,000 gap loan with.
With KPH Hotel Northland. Just that's the initial also we had talked about.
You're making this difficult. I'm
I
supposed
know,
to
I'm
remember
sorry.
all of this stuff. My motion is that we accept the request with the following terms: a $500,000 gap loan to KPH
Hotel Northland.
Hotel Northland with annual interest payments only until the balloon in the earlier 5 years or refinance.
at 2%. At
2%.
Didn't I say 2%?
No.
Annual 2%?
You didn't.
Okay, strike everything you heard before.
No.
Here. Okay. my motion is to approve the request on the following terms. A $500,000 gap loan to KPH Hotel Northland with annual interest payments at 2% until a balloon, which will be in 5 years, or the earlier, with earlier of 5 years or refinance.
Second.
It just doesn't roll off my tongue.
I'll second that.
Okay, you've heard the motion. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
This will go to council on Monday.
We have one last thing that has to be taken care of, and that's the motion to approve the financial report and check register as provided.
Yeah, number 4.
Sorry.
Number 4, Harry. Other page.
We're out of
Motion and second. Those in favor, say aye.
You missed 4.
Number 4.
I motion to approve number 4.
Payment, motion to approve payment to Martel Construction, amount of $2,487.50 for contract CD 1602. Motion and
Jim and
Blue,
Tom.
second by
Jim,
Matt. Those in
Jim and
favor
Matt.
say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
Now number 5.
Now number 5.
I make a motion.
Consideration and possible action on acceptance of financial report and check register as provided.
So moved.
Motion by Gary, second by
Jim.
those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried. There'll be no report from the
We
director.
actually vote on it?
Busy enough.
We're good.
Okay.
Your motion?
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Well, it was a long time ago.
I know.
We're adjourned.
What, the younger people?
Thank you. You guys. Thanks. Next time.